basically why and how we formalize the blockchain, and this is a work, okay. This is a work made with also Emmanuel Onsenom and Romeric Ludinar, Maria Potap, and Sara Tucci Piergiovanni. So, as we know, the blockchain, well, I don't need to spend many words on that, is one of the most interesting new technology of the past few years. And Italy is a blockchain, and that is append only. But before going into details, we have to remember that the blockchain is implemented in a distributed system. So this means that we have many nodes that are running the blockchain, and nodes communicate exchanging messages. So then the fact that each node has a local copy of the blockchain implies that those local copy may be slightly different in the same time instant. So, as I said, as we know, the blockchain is an append-only object, and in the moment in which we want to append a new block, who is in charge to do this? Since we are in a distributed system, we may have different peers that want to append the same block, and we want to preserve the chain shape, so we don't want to have something like that with many nodes that can extend the same block. And so far, there are mainly two corner approaches to append a new block. There is the proof of work, and as we know, we may fork if we use the proof of work. And there are the consensus-based approaches, but as we know, those approaches do not scale. But by the way, so in the moment in which we have a fork, what happened is that we lose the chain shape. We don't have a chain anymore, we have a tree. And what we do, for instance, for the Bitcoin, we choose the longest chain as the main chain. Okay, here you cannot see, but there is some shadow blocks drawn. And so, let us imagine that you can also visualize the shadow blocks. And what happens if I have, for instance, two nodes in my system, where the first one has the top view of the blockchain and the second one has the bottom view of the blockchain? In the moment in which those nodes are reading, for instance, in the same time, they are reading a different blockchain. So what is the kind of consistency that the blockchain provides to the user? And for instance, if we use a more practical example and we consider smart contract, let us imagine that we have a very simple smart contract. There is nothing more that we can imagine a smart contract like a piece of code in which we have a variable x that is initialized to 0, and then we just define a function that increments x with the value of the parameter of the function. And now again we have two nodes with different view of the blockchain. We have one node that contains before in the main chain, so increments x with 4, and another node that has in the blockchain before prime, so increment x with 3. So the question is, what is the value of x? And so this is a little bit the anomaly of the blockchain, because we first have the object without having a specification. So the question is, if I want to use the blockchain to build something on top of it, how should I manage the blockchain? Which kind of property can I expect from it? And so, after the 2008, with the white paper of Satoshi Nakamoto, there has been many blockchain that has been proposed, and still the question is how to formalize them. If I want to build an application on top of the blockchain, which one should I choose? And so far there has been a couple of interesting works that formalize the blockchains, but more like a list of records. And so a list does not really fit for all the kind of blockchain that we have so far, because, for instance, it's not so suitable for Bitcoin and Ethereum because we can fork. And so what we are going to see here is what we try to do, so a formal framework that is general enough to model all the existing blockchain. Okay, here you can see. It's okay. Well, okay. So we define the block tree abstract data type, and well, it's not important to focus on the abstract data type itself. It's just a way to formalize the object. So instead of considering a list, we consider the tree, and so the idea is that this object is this block tree object. We can perform the read operations. So selecting a path. Okay, so there was a tree, and when you read, you can read a chain. And then we define another object because, as I said, there are mainly when we want to append two corner approaches, there is the proof of work and the consensus. So, I mean, there is a way, there are many ways to perform this operation that is quite complex. So we demanded everything to another object, the token oracle, that is a little bit exotic, but it allows us to append, to generate and append blocks to the chain. So the reason why we define this object is because we want to predicate on the properties that this object is able to provide. So we establish consistency criteria. This object provides two operations, the read and append, and we predicate on the result of the read operation in order to establish the consistency criteria that this object is able to provide. And we define two consistency criteria. There is the eventual consistency and the strong consistency. And the consistency criteria is nothing more than the conjunction of properties, and we are going to see those properties. And maybe here you can see that, okay, a little bit more. And okay, for I will use this kind of draw, in which we have two processes, I and j, and every time there is a blockchain out of the block tree, there is a read operation that is performed. So, which kind of properties we may expect from a blockchain? First of all, we want that if I read a chain, all the blocks that are contained in the chain are valid. What does it mean valid? We don't care about the protocol that is, I mean, the kind of blockchain that we are considering. We just say that a block is valid if it's compliant with the application level, and I want that someone appended such block, so it's not a block out of the blue. Then what we also want, we want that in the moment in which I read, I'm not, for instance, if I read a chain that has a length of 10, I don't want to read, I don't want that the further chains that I read are shorter than 10. So in this case, we define the score, that is just a way to compare different blockchains that we may read. So we have that if I read a blockchain that has a certain score, I'm not going to decrease. So this property is only quantitative. So far we say that we want to read something that is valid. If I have a sequence of read operation, I'm not decreasing in terms of score, but I also need to increase to go further. So we have the evergreen tree properties that says that if I read a chain with a certain score, eventually I'm going to increase. So in some sense, this prevents us to have a block tree that is a star. So we may append, but we are never able to increase the quality of the blockchain that we return with the read operation. And so far, I mean, we are just speaking about the how to say, the score of the chain that I'm reading. Now it's time to give a look what happened between the chains that are returned by different processes. And so we have the strong prefix property that says that for each couple of read operations, every time I have a couple of read, I have that either one is the prefix of the other or vice versa. So this means that we never have processes that returns different blocks. So this is it's a quite strong property. And then there is the weaker version of the strong properties that says that every time I read a chain that has a score of S, I have that eventually all the returned block chains share a prefix that has a score of at least of X, at least S. So to give an example, the first read operation, if I say that the score is like the length, so the first read operations return a chain that contains 3 blocks. So I'm expecting that eventually all the further block chain that I return are sharing a prefix of at least 3. And so after the first read operations, I have that I and J are sharing, are returning block chains with a common prefix of at least 3. So in the moment in which we combine those properties, we have that in some sense the prefix returned by the different read operation is increasing. And so given those properties, we can say that we define the eventual consistency criteria and the strong consistency criteria where all of them share the local monotonic read, the validity, and the evergreen tree, because are quite useful properties. And then we have the eventual prefix for the eventual consistency and the strong prefix for the strong consistency. And so this is the moment in which we compare them, the kind of history that those objects may generate, depending on the different consistency criteria. Now, so far we spoke about the kind of consistency that we can have in the moment in which we read, but I omitted how we are going to append. So since it's quite wide the approaches that we can use to append, we define the token oracle. And the token oracle is an object that exposes 2 operations. The first one is the get token. So in the moment in which I want to append, for instance, I want to append BL to the chain, so I want to append BL to BQ, what I have to do is to ask to the token, to the oracle, the token to append BL to BQ. So it's a kind of, it's like for the proof of work. I'm asking to the oracle the permission, and eventually I'm expecting to have the permission to append the token. And then once I have the token, it's not finished yet, because I have to ask to the oracle the permission to append such token, to use such token in order to append BQ to BL. And here it comes the how to say, the work that the oracle does, because we may have 2 kinds of oracle. We have the frugal oracle that allows at most k blocks to be appended to the same, and then there is the prodigal oracle that don't care too much about the blocks that you may append and let everyone append all the blocks that they want to the same block once they have the token. So for instance, in this case, we have finally the token for BL, and if we consider a frugal oracle with k greater than 1 or the prodigal one, we can append the block. So we fork and we lose the chain shape. And in the case we have a frugal oracle with k equal to 1, we cannot append and we keep the chain shape. So, I mean, it's quite strange to speak about token when we want to append a block, but this kind of formalization has been really useful in the moment in which we try to see what is the relationship between the oracle and the consensus. So the consensus is a very well-known problem, and which has the classical properties of termination, agreement, integrity, and in this case we consider the same validity property that is used in Red Belly, such that if I decide a block, this block a value, this block satisfies a predicate. So it's like to say, saying that we are deciding a block that is valid. And the interesting point is that, so the frugal oracle with k equal to 1, the one that does not allow you to fork, I can use this oracle to solve consensus. So this object has consensus number infinite. While the prodigal oracle, the one that lets you append all the blocks that you want, like for the proof of work case, it has consensus number 1. So you can use this object to solve consensus if you have just one process. And okay, I will go a little bit quick on that. But once we have this object, the definition of the block tree and the oracle, we can really try to see which are the necessary conditions to have those objects, to implement those objects. So we tried, once we got this specification, we tried to see which kind of communication primitive do I need to implement those objects in a distributed system. And of course, so we define those three properties that we, in the moment in which I have that I update my tree, my local view, I have to send to everyone this update, because we have to keep the consistency. So, and then when I receive the update, I have to update effectively my view. But then what is really necessary is that every time I update my view, everyone has to do the same. So we cannot, I mean, we really need that in order to, only, for instance, we need this kind of properties in order to implement the mental consistency. So if I want to implement a block tree that provides a mental consistency, I cannot lose any update message. And so since this is true for the mental consistency, it's true also for the strong consistency. And then what we have is that if we want to implement a block tree that provides strong consistency, we cannot have forks. So if we cannot have forks, we need the frugal oracle with k equal to 1, and then we need consensus. So this means that in the moment in which we have forks, the best we can try to have is eventual consistency. And here is the mapping that we did between the existing solution, well, just a bunch, because there are so many, with the composition between the block tree and the oracle. And we have that Bitcoin and Ethereum, they can try to provide the eventual consistency, while the other one provide strong consistency. And well, okay, I am at the end of the presentation. What we saw is the formal specification for the blockchain, and which has been really useful to derive the conclusion about the impossibilities and the necessities, because without this kind of formalization, it was really hard even to prove that consensus was necessary to have a chain. And then as future work, we are looking at the solvability of the object in the distributed system. And that's it.
can understand why the tree is better than a list, because in fact there is a tree.
There is a tree.
But when I think about an abstract data type, I imagine it being implemented on each node.
Yes.
But on each node, you don't have a tree in the end.
Why
I
not?
receive the multiple versions
Yes,
of
but
the list.
but at the end you have the tree, and when you read, you select the chain.
Okay, so you consider the blocks there. Okay. You consider the blocks there because if you receive bigger extensions for this, and then in the reading you get this.
It's because you could not see
Yeah,
the shadow part.
I was trying to follow, but at some point I was.
Otherwise, yes.
Now I get it.
Thank you. First of all, I applaud your work on formal verification because it's something not many people are working on, and I think it's really nice. Have you looked at Cardano?
Not yet.
They say they do formal verification of their code, so I guess it would be an interesting use case for your
Yes.
research.
Yes, he's in our to-do list.
Cool.
He's not here in the future work, but
Yeah.
he's in our to-do list.
Nice.
I've got a question. So it's probably close to Alison's question. So regarding your eventual consistency category, do you know? Do you do any kind of merging when you receive different versions?
What do you mean, different version? Because locally you have the tree, so you.
Yeah, but before receiving other blocks from or other branches from other nodes, you keep them as a tree locally, but
Yes.
you don't try to merge.
No.
So every time in the future you're gonna verify something, you need to go to that branch.
Yes.
So follow that specifically. Okay.
We are not doing any kind of optimization. I mean, it's just the specification.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
No more question? Okay, let's start with the memo.